Okay, so networking. It's like everyone's doing it right. But does it ever feel like kind of a chore sometimes?
Yeah, definitely.
Like you're scrolling through LinkedIn and it's just, are any of these profiles even real?
Right.
And all the like self-proclaimed gurus. Ugh. Anyway, what if there was a better way to do all this? You know,
Well, that's what Pausefika wants to be, basically, like the antidote to all that.
exactly. We're calling this deep dive Can Real Networking Scale. We've got Pausefika's pitch deck. They want to be the future of professional networking, but like for real this time.
Yeah, and they think big. I mean, they're not just trying to tweak things here and there. They're talking about changing how companies connect, like fundamentally.
Okay, so their big thing is, get this, a corporations are BA people. Mega trend.
Which basically means they're saying that companies are going to start acting more like individual people.
So like companies swiping right on each other, is that seriously what we're talking about here?
Well, they compare it to, how personal networking changed over time, like from MSN to Facebook, then to Tinder.
And I guess on the business side, that's like Microsoft Communicator to Slack to Pausefika.
Yeah, their whole argument is there's this natural progression from these broad platforms to more focused ones for specific niches. And they think the business world is going that way too.
Okay, but that's a pretty big if, don't you think?
Yeah.
Like, I get that businesses need to connect, but it's not like swiping right on a dating app.
Exactly. That's the million-dollar question. Is this even the right comparison? Because in the business world, there's some pretty serious implications to all of this. It's not a game.
Totally. Okay, so before we go any further, we need to understand the problem they're trying to solve.
Hmm.
And they're not holding back. They call out all the fake accounts and scams, especially on LinkedIn.
Yeah, like remember that research we saw? More than half of businesses in the US have run into scams on LinkedIn.
It's kind of terrifying when you think about it.
And it's not even just the outright scams. There's just like this overall lack of trust online. Like Pausefika points out that fake accounts on LinkedIn that people reported have like tripled in just a few years.
No wonder everyone's feeling burnt out.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine trying to build a real connection when you can't even be sure the person on the other side is real.
It's impossible.
It's like trying to have a conversation in a room full of people wearing masks,
100%. You never really know who you're talking to.
And even when you do find someone legit, it's like you're drowning in information.
Totally. It's exhausting. All
Yeah.
those updates, all those articles. Pausefika's bet is that people are desperate for something more authentic, something curated.
So that's what they're trying to fix, right?
Yeah.
Less noise, more real connection.
Yes.
That's the whole pitch, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It all comes back to this idea of verification. Like, imagine if you could actually be sure everyone you're talking to is legit.
No more guessing if that CEO is for real or if that marketing guru is actually like some teenager in their mom's basement.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
They're really hammering home this verified profile thing, and they're like, look, only logins with a real work email. So no more hiding behind a Gmail address.
Makes sense. So you're saying if I'm like trying to find a new supplier or whatever for my business, I can be pretty sure everyone on Pausefika is legit.
Right. I mean, would that be useful? How many times have you looked at someone's profile and thought, is this even real?
All the time. I'm always like second guessing myself.
Exactly. It's like they want to be the green check mark, but for like the whole B2B world.
Okay, but this whole corporations or people thing.
They're still going with that.
So is it like the company itself that has a profile? Not just like Bob from accounting?
Exactly. Like, imagine companies having their own verified profiles. It could change how partnerships work, how they communicate, everything.
Whoa. That's a big change.
Yeah.
So are they just like making this up as they go or?
Well, they've got some numbers to back it up. Like, they say the market for professional networking is going to be huge, like $270 billion by 2030.
Okay. So even if they only get a tiny slice of that, they're talking about some serious money, right? But can they actually pull it off? I mean, it's a crowded market.
Yeah, and they know that. In the pitch deck, they're even saying, like, look, this is going to take time. They think it'll be like 2 years just to find their footing.
2 years. That's a long time in the tech world, isn't it?
It is. And that's even if everything goes perfectly, which it never does.
And they're not just competing with like startups,
Yeah.
right? They've got to go up against LinkedIn. That's a big deal.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, LinkedIn is the elephant in the room here.
Or I guess the 800-pound gorilla, whatever. Point is, it's LinkedIn.
Exactly. Plus, there's X or whatever it's calling itself these days. And even GitHub, they're getting into this whole networking thing.
So how can Pausefika like actually compete with all of that?
Well, they're doubling down on this whole authenticity thing. They're saying,
Hmm.
look, we're not trying to be everything to everyone. We're the place for real
So
connections.
it's more like an exclusive club.
Kind of. Like
Yeah.
you could go to the big industry event with 1,000 people. Or you could have dinner with like 10 people who actually matter.
Right. Quality over quantity.
Yeah. Yeah, and they actually have this cool graphic in the pitch deck. They show how they're aiming for a smaller network, but with a much higher percentage of, real people, like we were talking about.
Okay, so less spam, but maybe less to choose from. It's a trade-off.
Totally. That's the big question for investors. Can a platform be successful, like really successful, if it's built on being, I don't know, exclusive? Or do you have to go big or go home in the tech world?
Right, right. It's a tough one. But I guess we should probably mention, they are asking for a decent chunk of change, right?
Yeah. They want 250,000 euros,
For a 12% stake in the company.
which for those who aren't like swimming in the venture capital pool every day, that's what they call seed money. It's the first big investment to like build the product, hire people, all that.
High risk, high reward.
Yeah.
Classic startup stuff. So for everyone listening, what do you think? Would you give up some of the features and like the reach of LinkedIn for something like Pausefika?
It's a good question. Because, yeah, on the one hand, you might be giving up some things, but on the other hand, how much time have we all wasted with spam and fake accounts?
Way too much. So maybe it's worth it. Maybe it's time for a change.
Maybe. Or maybe this is just another one of those things that sounds good on paper but won't ever really work. Who knows?
Only time will tell. But that's what makes this stuff so interesting to talk about, right? The future of how we connect, how business gets done, it's all up in the air.
And that's a wrap on Can Real Networking Scale?